It's time for Windows Weekly. Paul Thurrott's here, MaryJo Foley's here, and most importantly, Microsoft's Chief Marketing Officer, Chris Capossela, for his annual press conference is coming up next.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and MaryJo Foley, episode 652, recorded Wednesday, December 18th, 2019. It's a Capossela Christmas. Windows Weekly is brought to you by Metallic, a Commvault venture. Metallic provides enterprise-grade backup and recovery technology through simple SaaS delivery. To sign up for your free 45-day trial, go to metallic.io/windows, and for a limited time through December 31st, 2019, with a one-year commitment, your first 3 months are free. And by Wasabi Hot Cloud Storage. Thinking about moving your data storage to the cloud? Wasabi is enterprise-class cloud storage at 1/5 the price of Amazon S3 and up to 6 times faster with no hidden fees for egress or API requests. Calculate your savings and try Wasabi with free unlimited storage for a month at wasabi.com. Code Windows. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show where we get together with Windows Weekly. And actually with Paul Thurrott and MaryJo Foley, Thurrott.com and allaboutmicrosoft.com. And as is traditional, on our last episode of the year, we like to bring in Santa's elves. MaryJo, you want to introduce our special guest?
Sure. Our special guest needs no introduction because he's been on several times. He is Chief Marketing Officer of Microsoft, Chris Capossela.
Hello, MaryJo.
Thank you for coming on the show again.
Oh, yeah. Do you like that timing, Paul? That was impressive timing.
He also, I might add, has some Surface laptops, some Surface Pros behind him.
And they're always there. It's not special for the show. They're always like right over my shoulder so I can feel.
That's your office?
Feel the good vibe. Yes, that's my office.
In the past, you've done this from your attic. But
it's true. This year, the way the show landed, if it's sort of like the 22nd or so, it's from the attic of my house. But if it's a little earlier, then I'm still at work.
Now,
this is my office.
I have to point out, the only thing missing is Surface Buds. You need...
Yeah. I decided to go with wired. The team thought wired would be the way to go.
It's safer.
That's what I decided to do.
We don't want you to fall out of your ears or anything.
No, exactly.
Besides,
but I did wear my Gears Pop T-shirt right there. I thought, you were all expecting the sweater, so I decided to go with the Gears Pop. Surprise you with Gears Pop.
Change it up.
Exactly. Nice. But thank you for having me.
Golly.
What is this? 4 or 5? I've lost track.
At least 5. I want to say it's 5.
Wow, it's great.
Yeah.
Is there a special 5 club like Saturday Night Live hosts?
Yeah. Yeah.
We need to send you one of those awards like people get at Microsoft when they've worked 5 years.
Right. That's right.
Yeah,
the crystal.
Like see-through with a medallion on it.
Exactly.
That's nice.
You are the only person I think we have on a regular, every year.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So it's a lonely club. I'll take it.
Yes. It's an exclusive club. That's the
exclusive.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
No, honestly, I do appreciate the opportunity to join. I really enjoy listening to the show throughout the year, and so it's kind of a treat for me to be able to jump on and have a casual conversation.
Your year-end airing of grievances. I made a list of things I disagree with. In April, Paul, you said
exactly. Exactly right. But it's also fun to see how many Microsoft employees actually email me or grab me in the hall and say, "Hey, I really enjoyed that show." So it's we get a lot of Microsoft people who enjoy listening in too. So thanks for having me.
Great.
Well, no, I mean the reason we like having you in return is because you're so great. I mean, you're just transparent and honest, and not that everyone else who works at Microsoft is not honest or whatever, but I mean, you just, I mean, it's I think you have a kind of a unique quality.
Thank you.
Of just openness, which is I really appreciate.
And waiting for
and the best thing you do every year that we love is when you talk about hidden gems, things that you think are going to be hot in the next year and all that. Because I always end up writing about that because I'm like, you're giving us little hints about the coming year that way.
Good. And last year, two I called some really obvious ones last year, but 2 that I called that have been surprising to people. One was Teams. and one was what we now call Power Platform, Power Apps and Power BI. And I was really happy to see that a year later I wasn't terribly off.
Nope.
So I won't talk about those this year, although they because I kind of talked about them a lot last year, but they are. We've been super happy with Teams adoption, which hasn't been a huge surprise to us, but the Power Platform stuff has really been awesome to see how, without a ton of marketing behind it, people are really starting to embrace it. And so it was fun to look back and sort of say, oh yeah, what did we talk about last year? But this year I thought I would maybe take a little bit of a different tack. You guys cover so much of what we do that you always make it a little bit challenging to touch on things you haven't maybe talked about. And I thought what could be interesting is to talk about a few things that I think maybe you've talked about, but I feel like they're interesting because they signal kind of a different approach that the company is taking these days compared to maybe 10 years ago. And so I thought I would highlight 4 or 5 things that I think are interesting from a product perspective, but also interesting because they show a much broader embrace of a multi-cloud, multi-platform, multi-ecosystem world. And I don't know that everyone thinks of them that way. So I thought I would maybe highlight them and give my take on why I think they're so surprising to someone who's been here for a really long time. And maybe they make total sense to everybody else. But if you guys are game for that, I'll
absolutely
just jump in. Okay.
Yeah.
And as I go, feel free to jump in. The first one's pretty obvious, but I love it anyways. And that is we not a lot of people picked this up. A lot of people picked up the fact that we just showed this thing called Xbox Series X, and we kind of surprised a lot of people at the Game Awards, and that was really fun. And there's a lot of fun memes on Twitter and online about the Xbox Series X, which we like. What a lot of people didn't necessarily pick up, not from that announcement, but from an announcement we made a little bit earlier, is that we're bringing Project X Cloud, which is our game streaming capabilities, we're bringing it to Game Pass. Xbox Game Pass. And we haven't yet shared the details of exactly like which SKUs and how that'll all work yet. But I think this notion that people are still incredibly excited about a console, and we are too, obviously, otherwise we wouldn't be building one. But we're also using Azure and putting these consoles into our Azure data centers and delivering, games to basically any device that we can get to work. And we're working hard on Android and of course iOS and Windows and you name it, Mac. We want you to be able to play these games streamed from our Azure data centers to whatever device you want. And I think that notion of embracing devices that gamers love to play on makes total sense logically. But if you backtrack, 10 years, so much of the gaming world was about exclusive content built for just your console. And now here we are 10 years later saying we love the console, we love Windows 10 gaming machines, but we also recognize the 2 biggest games in the world, Fortnite and Minecraft, are played on so many different platforms that we want to evolve our business to be a business where you can stream games to whatever device you like. And of course, we hope you choose our devices. We think lots of people still will. But I think embracing those endpoints, the endpoints being devices that have nothing to do with Microsoft, whether they're iPads or Android devices or what have you, it's a massive shift. And I think someone who knew Microsoft 10 years ago, if they didn't see us over the past 10 years and just came back and took a look at us now, that's one they'd say, wow, that's a shocking change. And so I love the fact that we couldn't do it without Azure, because now you're seeing a gaming business that lots of people think about as totally independent of Microsoft, and yet the future of it is unbelievably dependent on our Azure infrastructure. And then I love, of course, that it's embracing all these other devices that people are playing games on. It's no surprise that people play games. The most time spent on just about any device someone uses is gameplay. And so that's kind of the first one. This sort of xCloud comes to Azure, comes to Game Pass.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Yeah, sure.
Because in some ways that was kind of news to me. So there's a very direct relationship between Xbox One and that series, the Xbox series of consoles, I guess, and Project X Cloud. And again, and without getting like deep into the weeds, and I'm not trying to bypass any. You've said Microsoft has said certain things publicly and has not said others or whatever. But is it fair to say that from sort of a licensing or game availability perspective, that in this sense, xCloud is viewed as part of this family, even though it's not really a console, but it is essentially a part of the family of consoles, that as a subscriber, you can get access to your games in the same way that you would, as a buyer of a new console, get access to your games that you had already purchased. That's essentially.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you mean with a Game Pass subscription, you have access to hundreds of games that you can play today on your Xbox console and on your Windows 10 PC, assuming that the game plays on both, and many of them do. But in the future, through that subscription, you'll be able to stream those games to all the devices that we can possibly support. And we've already talked about support for Android and working on support for other devices as well. So in that sense, you're subscribing to a huge catalog of games, and then you can stream those games to many, many more devices than, to really whatever device you like to play on. The team internally, at least, often says, we want to let you play the games you love with the people you love on the devices you love. And that's a long-term sort of aspiration, but that's absolutely the goal.
Again, you can just cut this off if this is something Microsoft just hasn't discussed. I'm just trying to digest part of this. But, today there are purchases you can make on Xbox games, that is, and then there are subscription services like Game Pass that give you access to certain games. And so today, xCloud is obviously in preview. It's only on Android. It's fairly limited, but there are 50 plus games. Exactly. It's set up like a subscription service, and you're saying that there will essentially be a Game Pass that works on xCloud. Is there going to be an ownership component to xCloud as well? I see. As an Xbox guy from way back, have whatever catalog of games I've bought digitally. Do those come forward? And if this is something Microsoft has never discussed, then that's fine. I'm not trying to get the. I'm just curious about that aspect of it.
Yeah, I think the way we think about it is more, hey, we have this Game Pass subscription, and as part of that subscription, you get access to games. You also get a discount on any game that you want to buy that's part of that catalog. And so I think what we're telegraphing is that you should think of the streaming technology that is xCloud as literally coming to the Game Pass subscription service. Now, what the pricing will be, what the, how we'll do which SKUs, that's all to be determined and to be announced. But I kind of think of it as, Game Pass is the subscription that allows you to own games too, if you want to own the game outright. And then we want to bring streaming to that subscription. And that's the mental model I think you should have in your mind.
Okay.
Does that help at all?
Yeah.
It isn't as definitive as you want.
Right.
It isn't as definitive.
The brand, the pricing. There's so many things that haven't been announced yet. I know it's early days. I'm not trying to pry. But as you were saying that, it occurred to me that this isn't going in a slightly different direction than I thought it was. So it's kind of interesting.
And I think we sort of teased that at what we call XO 19, that big event we did in London, where I think it was Kareem on our team announced that, hey, we're going to be bringing xCloud to Game Pass. And I thought people didn't get it yet, and maybe it's because we haven't shared enough details, et cetera, et cetera. But I thought that was quite telling, and it's kind of a big deal. So that's kind of my
You even kind of hinted to us this on last year's show. Remember, I said to you, "Oh yeah, you're going to have an E3 and an E5 plan," and you're like, "You're not as wrong as it sounds."
True. That's right. So we'll see how all the packaging works out. But I don't. I think the team that's doing the xCloud work isn't necessarily thinking of it as, "Oh, this is another technology thing." It's another way to deliver technology.
It's another way to get to your games, basically.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And I think that's
I like the E3 E5 thing though. That's you should consider that, Brandon.
That was a MaryJo special. That was a MaryJo special for sure. So that was sort of my number one one. Shall we move on to number two?
Sure.
Number two is right up your alley, and then number three and number four will be a little bit different, maybe. Number two for me is what we've done with Surface this year, and the Surface new products that we both shipped and also showed and didn't ship yet. I think are worth touching on. We obviously we love the Surface product line. We love the fan-centric nature of it. We love the fact that people have really enjoyed these products. But this was a pretty shocking year for me to see that we shipped a very beautiful killer Surface Laptop 3 15-inch running an AMD processor. And then we shipped a Surface Pro X running on a Qualcomm processor. And then we showed a Surface Duo running on Android. And that silicon diversity, we love Intel. Intel's an incredibly important partner to us. Intel's in all of the Surfaces except for the ones I just mentioned, Surface Laptop 15-inch and Surface Pro X. The Surface Laptop 15-inch has an AMD version for consumers. It also has an Intel version for commercial customers. And then the Pro X, of course, is Qualcomm. But that silicon diversity is, I think, a really, really big deal. And it's not just a big deal for Surface. It's a really important thing for Windows. And Paul has covered this sort of extensively. But to lead with our own first-party products, to work more closely with AMD and Qualcomm, to design that silicon, and then to encourage our OEMs to work with AMD and Qualcomm, to leverage the work that we've done collectively between Microsoft and AMD and Qualcomm. That's a major, major step forward, I think, for the ecosystem. And it's been awesome to see customer reaction to these products. It's a decent amount of complexity to introduce to the line. It's a lot simpler if you just have one processor family and everything. But we think it's really, really critical to have this diversity. Qualcomm obviously brings mobile phone-like capabilities to Surface products, which we know people really, really want. And then, AMD brings some really interesting things to the table as well. And so that supplier and silicon diversity, I think, was really an interesting step that we took this year. And simultaneously, we announced and showed that we're going to ship a Surface on Android. And again, if you had gone back 10 years and said Surface will ship on Android, I think that would have been a weird, bizarre statement. You would have been sort of laughed at. And yet here we are years later, and we know to have a really small screen device, you've got to have the app ecosystem. And so partnering with Google on building an Android device, and we're really excited about it, having the Surface quality, the Surface brand, the Microsoft 365 productivity experience combined with the Android app ecosystem. For me, those two things, the silicon diversity and the operating system diversity, are probably symbolic of a different company. And I think that was worth touching on too.
I have two questions on this one.
Okay.
Wow.
I've heard you guys say partnering with Google on an Android device. Can you define what you guys mean by partnering here? Like you've shown it's going to have the Play Store, but what else are you doing like partnering? Why do you use the word partnering?
Google has some interesting things in common with Microsoft. We make Windows, and then we partner with any OEM who would like to make a Windows device. Dell, HP, Lenovo, Samsung, Acer, Asus, there's a long, long list. And Google does something very similar, where they make Android, and then they have a program to work with OEMs who want to build Android devices. Microsoft hasn't ever been part of that program because we've never built hardware for Android. But now, of course, we are. And so you can think of us as an OEM partner, just like you might think of Samsung as an OEM partner to Windows. And so they have a partner program. We get to work with them on, the Android code base that we're using, and do all of those normal things that you would expect, testing the performance of it, what do you pre-install on it, what are we allowed to pre-install on, all those things. So there's nothing more than any other, I would say, Android OEM, just like we would work with Google if they wanted to create, I don't know, some device that was running Windows. So that's the partnership.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yes. And then the second question is about Windows on ARM, because I feel like a couple of years ago, you guys were really pushing Windows on ARM hard. And I felt, even though that you introduced the Surface Pro X, I haven't felt as much momentum from Microsoft on that front this year. And I'm curious if you guys are thinking we need to wait until the technology catches up before we really go all in, or what you're thinking there.
Yeah. Well, I certainly think doing our own first-party hardware on ARM is a signal of how serious we are about wanting Windows to succeed on ARM. And, we've said this a bunch of times. There's nothing like making your own hardware to help you make the operating system better, to help you make the applications better, and basically do as much of the stack as we possibly can. So I think the best way to think about it is we're more committed than ever to have great Windows devices on Qualcomm processors, on an ARM architecture. And Surface Pro X, the fact that I'm on TV with it, our holiday ad is the Surface Pro X, the fact that we're putting so much energy behind it is, I think, the best evidence that we're real believers. And in some ways, when we get behind it as a first-party hardware maker, we can help bring the rest of the ecosystem along. And so that's really how I would think about it. I will tell you, I totally underestimated how much I would love having a LTE Surface device. And for lots of the rest of the world, they're like, yeah, welcome to the whatever 2020. But I didn't think it would make that much of a difference to me because I'm on Wi-Fi networks a lot. And yet I'm just amazed at how, and of course I have a phone that's always connected, and I thought, what's the big deal? But having a great Windows productivity mobile device that is behaves more like a phone with great battery life, instant on, and then of course always connected. It's been just awesome. So I think we're more committed really than ever, but we're going to lead through first party with Surface Pro X.
Okay.
Paul's talking, but I don't hear him.
Well, you're thinking about,
because he was so angry. I had his angry typing.
I just didn't want to forget this one because you talked about. Well, I just said I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm sorry, but I think the stuff that you're doing with hardware is very important because you're not just adopting other chipsets. You're also making your own internal hardware, and I think that's a huge part of what you're doing at Microsoft. I mean, so anyway, I didn't want to cut in too much with that. But
no, and obviously the collaboration with these silicon providers, we're literally building the silicon with them, designing the silicon with them.
Yeah,
and
I think that's a huge component.
Encouraging our OEMs to then go to those silicon partners and leverage it.
Right.
Okay, 3, data lakes, isn't it?
It isn't it. But Paul, did you want to say something else? I think I cut you off.
No, that was it. I'll maybe, because I know you're on a limited schedule. I didn't want to take too much time with that.
Great. I had a whole hour. I'm so sorry, but I do have a.
We screwed up, and I apologize.
Oh, it's fine. I want to give you as much time as I can. All right.
I screwed up, not we. Third
one. I'm going to put this in the broad category of doing important open source work. And I'll start. I was going to start with the first example, but then the last show, there was a guy who had a laptop with a sticker on it, and it made me want to reverse my order. So I'm going to open with Credge.
That was a Credge sticker from MaryJo Foley. He's talking about Micah Sargent's beautiful Elvis, his blue suede Surface Laptop 3. With a Credge sticker on it.
Exactly. This is the year that we really got obviously serious about embracing the work that Google has done through Chromium and saying, wow, there's this open source project. We've got an issue with our browser that the compatibility is just very hard for us to keep up with the web on. What if we were to be really radical and say we're going to do a browser that is the compatibility of Chrome with the trust and things that you love about Microsoft. And so, very close now to shipping Microsoft Edge. I've been thrilled with the quality of it. I've been using it now for many, many months. And again, this goes squarely into this category of wow, we're working on an open source project that is now going to be a Microsoft browser that will ship with Windows. It'll be the default browser for Windows. It gives us a ability to bring a browser to the Mac and to older versions of Windows. And of course, already we have it with Android and iOS. And so I think our browser story just gets so much better because we have embraced this open source project, and now we're of course contributing back to it, and that is kind of cool. We're making that open source project far more accessible. We've done a lot of work on accessibility with lots of our software, and we have to have a browser that's super, super accessible for people who might be low vision or various other needs they have. Touch is something we're contributing back. ARM64 is something we're contributing back. So, I think that's another one where if you had said 6 years ago, hey, we're gonna redo our browser on Chromium and we're going to contribute tech back to that open source project, you probably would have said never. When hell freezes over, that'll happen. And yet we're really excited about it, and I can't wait to get it out early in the new year and see what people think of it. So that was the first open source one, and then the second open source one, and then I'll pause for comments, is just what I'll call the dream that is GitHub for us. And from that perspective, I just mean, this is a tool set that just tons and tons of developers around the world are betting on. 10 million new developers joined GitHub this year. The community is now 40 million developers strong. 80% of them are outside the US, which is kind of stunning. And we have almost 2 million people, 2 million students who are using the platform as a learning platform. And lots of educators are using it to teach how to code, and real-world developer workflow is built on it. About 2 million organizations are now using GitHub. 2 million organizations, it's crazy. 35 of the global 50, of the global Fortune 50 companies are actually making contributions back to GitHub, which is kind of awesome. So we've just seen GitHub be this thing that I think everyone was worried what would happen when the acquisition happened. And Nat and the team have just done a beautiful job taking care of that community, adding top requested features, but also exploding the usage of it. And I think Satya was quite visionary when he said, hey, we see the world, every company is hiring engineers, and there are going to be more engineers working at non-tech companies than there are working at tech companies. And GitHub is a very important tool that they're going to use. And so we have to make it something really special. We have to make it a trusted, secure thing. And one of my favorite things we've done on GitHub this year is to introduce this thing called CodeQL, which I don't actually think you guys have talked about, although I may have missed a show or two. And CodeQL is basically a code analysis engine that can look at the code you're using, because most people start new projects with open source code that they didn't write. And it can find security vulnerabilities across the code base that you might have in your project, and then try to eradicate that security issue sort of forever. So we're trying to take GitHub and bring all the good things forward with it, but also add an element of trust and responsibility and security to it at massive scale. And it's a real issue we hear from board of directors, where they worry that their engineers are creating code, leveraging somebody else's work, and they're just not sure how safe and secure it is. And so GitHub and Edge are my two choices around this notion of us embracing open source, continuing with the theme of multi-cloud, multi-platform, multi-ecosystem. And I'll pause. There may be nothing you have to say.
Well, MaryJo and I had talked a little bit about Edge between us earlier, and I think we're both curious. I think we're on board with what you're doing with Edge. I think it makes tons of sense. Obviously, internally, not having to keep up with all the browser engines and all that stuff is excellent. Do you have Microsoft, I guess, have further designs on Edge? I mean, do you think this could be a product that gets appreciable gains in usage share? Or is it this just about providing a better inbox browser that's more efficient, it's easier, to update and can be updated more frequently, et cetera? I mean, but do you see Edge kind of competing better, just as a product as well?
without a doubt, that is our aspiration. It's not just having a decent default choice, which I think was sort of the second thing you were sort of saying. We absolutely feel like we can innovate in the browser space on top of Chromium, and we've done. Obviously, getting this first version out is really critical to us. As you mentioned, being able to update it more frequently, that'll be really important to us. But the team is very excited, not just to ship the product. The team is very excited to actually add capabilities that both commercial customers absolutely love, and as well as consumers absolutely love. One quiet, small one that hasn't yet gotten as much attention as I think it might over time is, of course, we support in-private browsing, but we also support in-private search through Edge. So if you're using Bing through Edge, in-private browsing means you're getting in-private search, which essentially means, we're not seeing any of those queries that you're firing off through your search engine. And enterprises really, really love that. It's one thing to have your searches not be stored in, some search history. But it's another thing to not have the company, in this case, Microsoft, seeing those in any way, shape, or form. And that's what in private gets you. So I think building a really innovative browser for consumers and for commercial customers is something we can do. And we absolutely have aspirations to have it have real share. How long that'll take, I don't know. But you shouldn't think of it as like an inbox app to Windows that we just kind of maintain. This is an absolute battleground for us. And we're really excited to see if we can innovate in ways that matter to customers. And then I think the share will follow.
It feels to me like you're kind of using Chromium-based Edge to pull Bing along, and Bing's pulling that along. It seems like those two products are maybe more joined at the hip than many of us think of them as being.
Yeah, as usual. Correct? As usual, spot on. Absolutely. Yeah. A huge percentage of Bing usage comes from the browser, whatever the default search engine is, the browser. And of course, we find that Edge customers typically use Bing much higher rates than a Chrome customer or a Safari customer would too. So they're absolutely very, very connected. And up until recently, they've also been very connected to Windows. But now, by embracing Chromium, I think we can go to more platforms more easily. We're already on Android and iOS, and bringing it to the Mac will be exciting for us too. And so, really creating a Microsoft 365 experience that transcends the operating system, as you guys heard Satya talk about at our Surface launch, on those little tables that we let you sit at that event.
Those are awesome.
Yeah, the next Surface launch, I wanted to just let you know, I will announce it right here. The tables will be taller and they will be smaller. And we're going to make more couches for our fans.
Pretty soon they'll just be fire hydrants.
Would be good.
It's going to be like a little breakfast bar that's just like a few inches wide.
We're buying a bunch of like Delta Coach, those tables that you put down in Coach. Yeah. We're going to take tables out of that. Tray tables. We've got some tray tables for our Surface. It's going to be good.
Excellent. Looking forward to that.
Yes, totally. So, MaryJo, yes, to answer your question, absolutely. You're totally right. Those are very connected. Okay. Of course, people will have the ability to switch their default search engine when they use Edge. So if they want to use Edge and use Google or some other search engine, they'll be able to switch that. They're not, but they are connected in the way people use them for sure.
Okay. Nice.
Last one.
We're only up to 4.
I thought the last one was the trade tables. Go on, I'm sorry.
Yeah. I had to find some way to get the trade tables. Thinking about this last night, I'm like, what am I going to get that there somehow? It wasn't a very smooth transition, Paul. I grant you that, but I got it in. Come hell or high water, I forced it in. Okay. The last one, and this one might be really a stretch for the typical content that I often think of when I think about Windows Weekly, but I'm going to go for it. And that is 2 services that we've introduced that you've talked about a little bit, but I think are more interesting they're interesting to me because I feel like they really embrace this multi-cloud, multi-platform thing. And that is Azure Sentinel and Azure Arc. And Azure Sentinel is a threat monitoring, security monitoring service, and then Azure Arc is a management service. And in both cases, they essentially allow you to use an Azure-based service to manage and secure things that aren't running on Azure at all. And so Azure Arc is the newest one. Azure Sentinel, I think people generally understand. Okay, you're going to look for threats, and you're going to help me manage those threats, and you're going to do that on Macs and Windows PCs and servers of all different shapes and sizes, Linux servers, Oracle databases, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's pretty straightforward. Azure Arc is really, I think, the one that is kind of a mind bender for some people, and I don't know that everyone got it just yet. And we're really, really excited about this product. This is essentially a management workload or management service that allows you to create a virtual machine, or let's say a database application or some sort of database instance, and put it on really whatever cloud or private data center you want, and have Azure Arc be the management plane for that server or that VM or that data service. And so in some ways you can think of us taking this Azure capability that we can help you with your Azure VMs and your Azure data, and actually arc out to other data centers. And they might be your own data centers that are running your own servers, or they might be data centers running in AWS, or VMs running in AWS. And that ability to essentially use an Azure service to manage your hybrid infrastructure, even if it's running on competing clouds to Azure, I think is pretty awesome and pretty indicative of our company taking an approach that says, hey, we really get that the world is a multi-cloud hybrid world. And we're only going to do right by our customers if we create these services like Azure Arc and Azure Sentinel that are not tied to the rest of Microsoft Stack. And if a customer literally uses nothing else from Microsoft, if they use all Macs and all G Suite and all Linux servers and literally nothing, Azure Arc and Azure Sentinel are both services that I think they could fall in love with, just like GitHub is a service that you could fall in love with, even if you use nothing else from Microsoft. And so I'd say in the coming year or the coming years, keep your eyes out for other services that might meet that pattern and might look like those things, because I think we're getting really excited about what we can do. And I'm not sure everyone else is getting as excited about embracing that approach to the products that they build. And I think we're really excited to do it. So maybe a little archaic or random, but I thought I'd throw it out there.
I think that's very interesting.
Me too.
Yeah.
Same.
Good.
Yeah. Chris, thank you so much for your time.
I know.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
I would love to give you 5 more minutes if we can. I don't want to just.
You will.
Tell Satya
show
you're
up
doing
and throw
something
up.
very important.
Chris, before you go though, can you discuss? There's a giveaway occurring. Is that?
Yes, there is. Before we do the giveaway, my lights just. I just wanted to pause and see if you guys had any things you wanted to chat about or ask questions about, because usually we get. Usually I'm not talking the whole time, and this year I've been.
I have one I'd like to ask, because we've asked you this before on the show too, and it keeps coming up, and that's ads in Microsoft's first-party software, like in Mail and Calendar and Outlook. And people are asking us, is this just them continuing to do trial balloons, or is this the future? Is this the way Microsoft is going to monetize its own first-party software?
Yeah, I think the answer I would say is we haven't found a great ad-funded model for things like Windows or Office. It's technically possible, of course, to do it, but we just haven't found that it monetizes in a particularly high rate compared to something like search. For us, obviously, the very best ad-funded business model is search. And Bing is a very big business for us. We love that business. It's growing fast. Edge success would make Bing success go faster, which would be great. We do things like Windows 10, the lock screen. We're putting images up there, and if you engage with those images, you're firing off Bing queries. And so we definitely love in-product messaging that helps you get more engaged in our products, learn new things about them, use them more deeply. The more you use Bing, the more money we make. That's a pretty straightforward formula. No one's shocked at that. But I really wouldn't expect to see us doing like banner ads in Windows or banner ads in Office. We've tried a bunch of variants of this. We had an Office Starter Edition years ago that was essentially free, and it came pre-installed on a bunch of machines, and it had ads in the right-hand pane. People didn't seem to mind that, but there was very little benefit to Microsoft. And so, you don't find that anymore. So, I would say never say never, but we have played around with this enough to know that in something like, Outlook or Word or Excel, we just haven't found a model there that I think works for the end user and works for Microsoft and of course the advertiser. And so I'm sure you'll still see us poke around, sending email to a free Outlook.com inbox is very different than putting an ad inside of Outlook that you paid Office 365 for. And so I don't think you'll see us do anything where you'd be embarrassed for us or you'd say, my gosh, what were they thinking?
Okay, thanks on that.
Yeah, you bet.
I guess I just feel duty bound. I mean, it's Windows Weekly. We're primarily concerned about Windows. Certainly I am. I mean, last year when we talked, I had asked about the ramifications of not having a voice directly responsible for Windows in the senior leadership team. A year later, it seems like there's a lot of change and uncertainty and not necessarily a lot of good communication around what's happening with Windows, especially through the Insider program. I mean, is there any hope for us in the new year that there'll be some, because obviously there's exciting things. I mean, there's Windows 10X and all that, but there are questions around that too, the developer story and so forth.
Right.
I mean, what's the whole Windows strategy now? I mean, I don't really like
great.
that, but I mean, I feel like it's just, there used to be like a voice, and I feel like we've kind of lost that.
No, I totally, and I've heard that on the show, of course. I would say a couple of things that are worth pointing out. One is we are really investing in the product. And so Windows 10X, which we showed on the Surface Neo, we do feel like dual screen is going to be the future for many, many devices. And so building a Windows 10 that understands two screens in a way that's different than multi-monitor support, the classic Windows sort of two-screen thing. But no, these are actually two screens that are always there. What are the UI affordances that you need? What's the launch model? All of those things. I'm really excited about us investing in Windows 10X to make that happen, because while we showed Neo and Duo as relatively small screen devices, there's obviously plenty of interest in Surface Hub, which actually you have multiple screens that are big that you sort of daisy chain together, and you need the OS to change and to evolve. And so I think a lot of the engineering that we're doing on Windows is towards that future of new form factors and new silicon, and that you could do a full stop on those two, and that's thousands and thousands of people to make it happen. You are right that I think we have room for improvement on what's our voice of Windows to the world. Who is that? A single person? Is there a new drumbeat of communications that we should do? Is the Insider program working? Should we look to modify it, enhance it? You've seen some things that we're changing, and of course every time we touch it, people go absolutely bananas. And so it's like, okay, I guess it wasn't that awful, but if we leave it completely alone, then it's like, well, they're not doing anything to improve it. It's awful. And that's just
no. It's not that it's awful. I didn't mean to.
No. I wasn't putting words in your mouth.
But and listen, there are constraints. I get that. I mean, but I think that's part of the problem, because there is no single kind of a Windows thing. For a lot of us, for the enthusiasts in the audience, which is I guess probably most of us. The Insider program is kind of our interaction with all of it, and it seems a little scattered, and I think part of it is just that change that occurred internally.
Right, without having Terry, that one person who owned it all, soup to nuts. I totally get that, and it's great feedback. We'll continue to look at how do we show up stronger, I guess, and with a more singular voice, and continue to try to enhance the Insider program. Obviously, at the end of the day, you got to judge us on the quality of what we deliver, and are we doing exciting innovations? And I think Neo and the new Surface lineup and all that stuff, you'll keep us very much on our toes on the things that are good and the things that aren't, and that's good. We appreciate that.
Cool, thank you.
Let me get to the giveaway.
Yes.
I think we did sort of our first formal giveaway last year. We might have done some things in the past, but last year was sort of the first formal one. And so I think thanks to a lot of work from Paul and I think probably some people in his organization, like it's not really easy to do this, believe it or not. It's really easy for me because I'm just going to say, here's what we're giving away. But then Paul has to actually figure out how to do this sort of sweepstakesy thing. And, I really appreciate you being willing to do it. And so thank you. And so there are a couple things I'm doing.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you for making it possible.
I'm gonna have to I'm kind of tethered here once.
Do like a kind of a Vanna White.
He's
He
reaching
needs Vanna.
back to pick
He
up
needs Frank to be Vanna.
some very exciting stuff.
This is why I like wireless. Okay, we're going to do 2 of these. This is the Surface Pro 7 for people who really want all of the productivity of the Intel processor and the classic Pro 7. But we're also going to do 2 Surface Pro X's. I got to find my camera. There it is. So we're going to do 2 of those. So 2 Surface Pro X's, 2 Surface Pro 7s. And for me, one of the most delightful products we've ever done. This would be the Surface Laptop 3 15-inch. There it is. So I couldn't talk about AMD, Qualcomm, and Intel without representing all of them on here. And that's what we have here. We've got AMD, Qualcomm, and Intel. And then we're going to do 10 one-year Game Pass Ultimate subscriptions. Wow. Not 10-year Game Pass Ultimate. Really clear. Because I want to hope of
PC and console,
monetizing. Yes, Game Pass Ultimate, that's exactly right. Game Pass Ultimate is the one that's about $15 a month, and it gives you access to everything, PC and Xbox games. Awesome. And Game Pass Ultimate, it's got a name called Ultimate because it's the ultimate, and maybe there'll be interesting new things. And then 10 one-year Office 365. Notice they said Office 365 subscriptions, and that's also not a 10-year.
I think that was directed at you, MaryJo.
It was.
Because these are all in products. These are all products you can get today. So I wanted to make sure I wasn't. These are all products you can get today. So 2 Surface Pro X's, 2 Surface Pro 7s, 2 Surface Laptop 3s, and then 10 one-year Game Pass Ultimates and 10 one-year Office 365 subscriptions. And that obviously is just a token of our sort of appreciation for the show and for the work that Paul and MaryJo do to cover the company, because it is not an easy company to cover. It's big. It's getting bigger all the time. And I think you guys do a very, very amazing job. So thank you for that.
Thank you for your time, Chris Capossela. Don't forget to stop on the way out and get your parking validated. And,
I thought he was going to give away an ugly sweater, but no.
This is the amazing. And I tell you what, after 5 appearances, you get your own Heil microphone. We'll send one out to you.
Cool,
so you can reach around and do things.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's wonderful. Thank you. I got to check and make sure I can accept that from a compliance perspective. But
my God.
As long as they say yes, as long as it's under a certain threshold, I'd love to accept it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, we'd send you the microphone in the arm. It's about $500 all told.
Oh, yikes. Okay, I got to do some checking with
all right, ask the lawyers. Ask Frank. Can we do this?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, Chris. It's always a real honor for us to get you on.
You bet. Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Chris Capossela, Chief
Bye-bye.
Marketing Officer at Microsoft. CMO. Let's take a little break. We're going to come back with Paul and MaryJo. There's still lots to talk about. But first, a word from our sponsor, Metallic. Not Metallica. That's a great rock band. Metallic is a Commvault venture. It brings you powerful, enterprise-grade backup and recovery technology. And it's a simple SaaS product, so it means it's easy for you to use. And since Metallic's built on Commvault's core technology, you're guaranteed to get fast, secure backups and granular restores that'll fight against data loss. Metallic is unique. It scales across multiple workloads while mitigating the risk of data loss, security threats, and other issues like losing data in Microsoft Office 365, for example, or poor backup performance. Metallic offers default storage available through Azure, or you can bring your own. It has the capability to do backup recovery and migration from on-prem to the cloud. Some of the products, well, there's Metallic Core Backup and Recovery, which is, of course, designed to protect physical, but also virtual servers on-prem and in the cloud. Comprehensive backup and recovery for things like VMware, file servers on Windows and Linux, and Microsoft SQL databases. Then there's Metallic Microsoft Office 365 backup and recovery. Now, this is really interesting. I think in many businesses, you have a legal requirement to retain emails and documents for some numbers of years. What if you lost that data? Metallic Office 365 backup and recovery protects your mailboxes, your contacts, your calendar items, wherever they are, in SharePoint Online, Exchange Online, OneDrive. You get unlimited Azure storage and unlimited retention. Very important. Then, of course, there's endpoints. Metallic Endpoint Backup and Recovery backs up your desktop and laptop data to protect against deletion, corruption, malicious attacks, secure data with encryption, geolocation, and remote wipe capability. With Metallic, you'll be up and running in as little as 15 minutes, and you'll get simpler data protection operations with less downtime and seamless scaling, all with no big upfront investment. Safeguard your data now with Metallic. You'll get consistency, flexibility, and scalability that only a cloud platform can offer. Whether you're protecting a terabyte or 1,000, safeguard your data now and later with the benefits of SaaS and Metallic, a Commvault venture. To sign up for your free 45-day trial, go to metallic.io/windows. For a limited time through December 31st, 2019, with a 1-year commitment, your first 3 months are free. metallic.io/windows. And now back to Paul and MaryJo. And I thought that was a very... first of all, apologize. We ran late in a previous recording, and so we came in a little late to... Chris didn't get as much of Chris Capossela as he had hoped, and I know you had hoped, and that's all my fault, so I apologize for that. But I think he said a lot of interesting things. I thought it was really interesting, and maybe that's just me and my ignorance, but he said, we don't care if you use Windows as long as you use something from us. And he mentioned GitHub, which is, I thought, really... I mean, they don't even... I mean, they barely charge for GitHub.
I know.
And what was
that? Was
Azure?
an interesting one to include.
Yeah, and in Azure... So,
well, I mean, I think they're making an investment in the developer community generally, right? Because but by not being part of the mobile developer space, I mean, they kind of are, obviously, with Xamarin, but not a major part. And by not necessarily being a major part of the ambient computing / personal assistant space,
Smart home.
this is I mean, this is a way for them to be part of all of that stuff. And I think it's a nice, I think there's, I don't know if it drives Azure usage or not, but I bet it does. I mean, ultimately, I think that people's good experience with GitHub will cause people to think differently about Microsoft and consider Microsoft services where maybe they wouldn't before,
Yeah. Well, he talked about CodeQL, right? Which is something I don't think have talked about on the show.
That wasn't
Code
that
analysis
move
engine.
to get Rust in the...
and Rust, what they're doing with Rust.
I think we talked about that, didn't we?
We did talk about Rust.
Yeah. We didn't mention
but then
QL.
this thing he talked about, the code analysis engine, so you can find security vulnerabilities, right, in your code. Yeah. So you can, like Paul said, you could see them doing other kinds of Microsoft-made services and making them available to the GitHub community as a way to monetize that, right?
Right.
And then you mentioned off the air, MaryJo, that Satya Nadella had looked at your Android phone to make sure you were using something from Microsoft.
Yeah, that was a couple years ago when I first got an Android phone, and I ran into him at the Microsoft New York office, and he said, "Let me see your home screen." And he was like, "Okay, it's all Microsoft services. It's all good."
That's weird to me. And Chris did highlight this. This is such a change from the Microsoft of yore. I mean,
it is.
Yeah. No, we still kind of struggle with this. This was an older episode, but I just listened to a Scott Hanselman podcast where he was talking to someone from the WSL team, and he was talking about the 7 stages of grief or whatever it is, and I was like, it is. I mean, there's some element of that. There still is, right? I mean, Teams for Linux is announced, and it's like, oh man, like how many nails can this coffin take? Like, it's weird. I mean, it's a new world.
Yeah, I mean, and they're not paying just lip service to it. I guess that's the real, thing. Is you could say, "Oh, this is just they're just saying it," but no, they really. It seems they're sincere. They mention a lot.
Oh no, they absolutely.
What else was there?
I also thought, so the last points he brought up when he talked about Azure Sentinel and Azure Arc, and then he said, "Keep your eyes out for other things like this." So I'm like, so they're going to take some of their other services and they're going to put them on other clouds. Like he's signaling that for sure, right?
Absolutely, right. I mean, that makes sense.
It does, but it's like, I wanted him to say, like, give us a little hint, like which ones, like,
Well,
like
what's
maybe
virtual
desktop.
A year from now.
Yeah, maybe virtual desktop. That was just my pure guess, but I'm like, what else?
Interesting. Yeah, why not?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, he talked
before the break. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say the other thing. The private search when using Bing coupled with Microsoft Edge, I thought was interesting also. So we know they're tying Bing into search, and if you sign into Bing and you use it with Microsoft Edge, you get a lot of capabilities that kind of work like an intranet.
Right.
And so he said, you're going to be able to do this private search where we at Microsoft don't even see what you're searching for. That's
right.
cool.
And it's interesting. I'd kind of forgotten about that when, as the collections feature has kind of appeared in, I think it's the Dev and Canary versions of Edge. Yeah. I sort of renewed my criticism of this kind of feature, which I think is slightly wrong-headed. But the reason being that it's something that not everyone wants. It would be a great extension. If it was made into an extension, it was something you could use in other browsers. I feel like the browser in many ways should be kind of this empty shell that, you can kind of build off of as a user or as an enterprise, that they might want to do that for their users. But that feature that he mentioned, that you just mentioned, this integration with what is essentially like, I don't know what they call it, but like Bing for Work or whatever, where you get those intranet-like capabilities when you search in a browser. That's actually an excellent example of good addition to the browser that makes sense for Microsoft and its user base. Yeah. And for us as individuals, like you and I, MaryJo, people who are not signing in with a corporate account, you're not going to see that. It doesn't hurt you. It doesn't get in the way. It's not anything. Yeah. But for the people who are signing in with an AAD account, and for the workplaces that want to do this kind of thing, that's a tremendous integration. It's a great idea. Yeah. And I don't know, it's hard to find those things, I'm sure, but I think that's just an excellent idea. Like that's a really smart integration.
So it was another good episode with Chris.
Yeah, it's so nice that he does that. And the giveaway. Yeah. So Paul, do you know what you're going to do, or will you want to?
Yeah, so I was just, as you were doing the ad, I kind of looked at how I handled this last year, and what I saw was that it took longer than I would like. So I have to balance the time between, I want to put up a post for each of these things and give people time to get in there and put their vote in or whatever, and then we choose them randomly. But I also don't want to drag it out for a month, and so last year it took about a month from the day I'll put the post up after the show. That we're doing this thing, and that we have the 10 Xbox Game Pass Ultimate codes. We have 10 Office 365 codes. Those could be 2 separate events, and then there'll be one for all of the hardware as well. I'd like to get it done more quickly this year, so I will try to do that. It's not all going to happen before Christmas, I can tell you that. So don't be counting on anything coming for the stocking or whatever. But I will try to do it more quickly. It's all here. My FedEx driver hates me.
I'm sure.
But seriously, like I thought he was going to punch me. He was so mad. He went from being curious and funny about how many things I get to seriously, what is wrong with you, to like saying to my wife, like, you need to tell your husband that blah, blah, blah. And he started like, couple weeks ago, he's like, just so you guys know, everything's going to be late this month. Everything, like nothing. And Microsoft sent this stuff yesterday to come before 10:30. It arrived at approximately 3:00 in the afternoon, and he was legitimately upset with me. Like 6 giant boxes that he kind of unceremoniously left on my front porch. I don't know what I can do for this guy.
Give him $100. You give him something at the end of the year.
I'm definitely going to give him a tip. But I've had such a good relationship with all of my delivery driver guys over the year. Like this is the first time where I'm like, man, this guy, he's really upset with me. Like he's,
you're making me work.
You get too much stuff.
You're doing too much business our way. We don't want so much business. Thank you.
He sets up with my wife, like, tell your husband to use a laptop for more than 3 days. Something like that. I know. Like, she's like, what? And she's like, how many laptops does he need?
You're not used to this kind of traffic in Lower Macungie Valley. I gotta tell you.
Right. The circle was not built to handle the truck driving through everything.
I think I'm hearing more and more nasty stories about FedEx. I feel like FedEx is kind of going downhill a little bit too.
When I go to the local office, those guys are great. I've actually complimented them in person, and they've asked me to do it via their form thing, which I have done as well. But just because they're really nice and they're fast and they know what they're doing. And I thought this guy is fine. He's great, whatever. But lately, it's clearly been going downhill.
I always feel guilty, and we give nice Christmas bonuses to all of our delivery.
Yeah, of course you have to.
People in our business, There's literally a package a day, if not several. And
well, you got to. The other thing is from the street to my house, and this is very common for my neighborhood. It's a distance of approximately 75 feet. It's also a hill that could be a ski resort if it was in a different place.
That's why.
So, like now, in my case, we're home. Like we're always home. So someone is always here. But these guys, they drive up the driveway or they walk up the driveway. They ring the doorbell. Right. No one's home. You have to sign for it. They can't leave it. Then they get in an argument with the people when they come back. Like, it's no wonder they're in bad moods all the time,
Yeah. We have it's very easy for our FedEx guy. We have a little portico to shelter him from the rain. He pulls up. We give him a little hot toddy.
I almost feel like what we need is a lockbox thing at the end of the driveway.
Like an Amazon locker, except for you.
Like electronically sign for it from the house,
There you go. Yeah.
I would do that. I always feel bad. Like sometimes the mail woman has to walk up our driveway with some package that won't fit in the mailbox or something. And, she got 5,000 steps in. Just
Are you on a rural route? Are you like Paul Thurrott, Rural Route 3, Macungie, Lower Macungie, Pennsylvania?
It's a rural area.
Yeah. So
you could get picked up by a hawk if you wouldn't have walked too far.
Taken and dropped into the fires of Mordor.
Fox will come running out of the woods and start biting your ankles.
So, by the way, what does the fox say? I've been wondering that. No, let's not start that all over again.
Wrong show.
I went through all the memes of 2010, and that one I stuck on for a while. Oh, man. So the bottom line is Thurrott.com. Paul will post posts for each of the giveaways. It sounded like he gave us a lot of stuff. Is this more than last year?
It is, and I was having trouble. So last year there was some number of some Surface Go's and some Surface headphones, which were fine, but like these are way more valuable, and more desirable.
He gave away
items,
6 laptops basically.
I know.
Yeah, and that was just a function of what was released each of these years. It was a big year for Surface.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, at Thurrott.com and starting today, and then for some time, just keep going back and enter. And of course, it's not a lottery. It's a sweepstakes. I don't know.
It's a giveaway.
Right? I don't know.
Yeah.
There's all
you don't have to buy anything to enter.
In radio, there's rules, but I don't know. I don't know if there's rules.
Oh no, there are rules, and I have a problem with some of those rules, but they've been drummed into my head by my coworkers.
Yeah, there can't be any consideration. It has to be skill.
Right.
I can't remember all the deal. But anyway, you're doing it right.
Anyone can do it.
It's off our shoulders. Twit has nothing to do with this.
Nor does ZDNet. They can't do it either.
That's why Paul has to do it, right? Because
even from Microsoft's perspective, they're essentially giving it to me for some sort of, I forget the wording they used, but I don't know if you saw the forums, MaryJo, but it was like for evaluation essentially, and it's my decision to give them away.
Oh, that's interesting.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
So they're also washing their hands of the giveaway. They don't have anything to do with it.
It's a legal thing.
I thought it was interesting. I can't even give him a microphone.
I know. Right. Yep.
I used to work at a bank, and we had the same issue. Like people would want to give you a Christmas gift, and you were not allowed to accept that.
Yeah, no bribes. All right. There's still plenty to talk about. He mentioned, of course, Xbox Scarlet. We know it's Series X, and it looks a little.
I think it looks great.
I'm really concerned about how it's going to fit into my cabinet.
Yeah,
is that the thing that looks like a refrigerator?
Small. It looks
small fridge.
It actually looks exactly like Apple's old Airport Extreme. It's exactly like that. It's a rounded rectangle. How tall is that? Can you tell?
Yeah, it's not quite as tall as the Xbox One X is today, standing, at the tall way.
Oh, so it's short.
Yeah, it's not like a tower PC. This is, it's fairly small.
You can't tell. It looks like a monolith.
It
but
does.
They did put
a bookshelf speaker.
They put a controller next to it, so.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's not as tall as an Xbox One on its side?
Yes, vertically.
Because I can't get that in. I'm going to have to put it up by the TV now. I can't put it on.
Yeah. Well, again, depending on your needs and your internet connectivity, it's possible that xCloud might be the right approach for you next year, right?
We'll see. You do not like the name Series X, I take it?
Well, MaryJo and I kind of were joking about this privately, but if you look at the way they name, well, first I saw the name and I thought, my God, that's terrible. So they've kind of boxed themselves in on Xbox One. They got Xbox One, Xbox One S, Xbox One X, and now this one is like Xbox Series X. Now we know they're making at least 2 models, right? So what they later confirmed was that Series X is the name of the first model, the high-end one. My guess is that the lower-end one will be called Series S to keep it in the same naming convention they're using right now.
Not Series Y?
Yeah.
No. Oh, that's a bad name. But the thing is, the real name of this console generation, such as it is Xbox. So they've kind of gone back to the original name again. And so Series X is one of the models, and then Series S.
So it's an Xbox, and then you have a Series X and
it's
a
Xbox.
Series S. Yeah,
so,
okay.
But it's like giving the way Microsoft names things, why wouldn't they call it Xbox, Series X, right? They do that with Windows 10. Windows 10, version 1909. I actually think in the Windows 10 naming scheme, not having a comma in there makes more sense. I think the comma makes sense for the Xbox, to which MaryJo has told me that I am obsessed with commas. But
you are.
I think, well, I am. But I think that would help because this makes it seem like this is the success. Like, in other words, we have Xbox One X, and now we have Xbox Series X. Like, it's the next one of those.
You know what makes this even more confusing? You know what else we have? Surface Pro X.
Right.
And we have Windows 10 X. None of these things are related to the other things with X's.
No. They're obsessed with X all of a sudden.
On the Mac side, it's not an X, it's a 10.
I know.
Right,
I know.
Exactly.
I know.
And on the Tesla side, it is an X. It's called the Model X.
So, yeah.
Life is hard.
I don't think it's a good
Branding
name, but
is
Yeah, branding is hard, actually.
Yep, it is.
it is hard. Yeah. Also, for you folks in the, for you folks, I'll just say, everyone listening to this podcast, it's impossible not to hear this name and not think of Windows Phone 7 series.
Oh,
The original terrible name
not good.
of the, the Windows Phone
yeah.
line, which they very quickly recanted and just went to Windows Phone 7. But for the same reason, right? Remember, the point of that name was there are going to be multiple models and types. They didn't really come through on this, but there was going to be a version that was kind of like a candy bar shape, and they were going to have the keyboard version, hardware keyboard versions. It was a series of phones. Well, this is a series of Xboxen. Is that what we're calling them?
Xboxen.
I like it.
Wow.
Whatever, So it's like they're going back to this style of naming. And it's like, guys, come on, no. Xbox X, maybe? Yeah. I guess it would have been too close to Xbox One S.
I say Xbox X. That sounds like you're confused.
I know.
Yeah, it does.
It's a little redundant.
Yeah.
I had to give my Xbox to my ex. That's part of the divorce. So anyway, it's honestly, I think it looks great. I know there's been some debate over the look of it and whatever, but I think it looks cool. Although, Leo, you make a good point. I mean, maybe for people that would typically stick this in a shelf, for under
Can
like
you
a
put it on
home
its
theater.
side?
Yeah, you can put it either way.
Okay.
The thing is, they may, here's another theory now that I'm talking myself through it. It's possible they designed it this way semi on purpose because they don't want people to stick in those things because it would overheat in there.
It gets hot. It does get hot.
Oh, yeah. It's going to get hot. This is like a 4K device.
I have to get a fan for my cabinet or something just to keep stuff in there cool. Because I think I fry stuff. I mean, a lot of this stuff.
I mean, if it was if it's an IKEA cabinet, you could probably just melt the whole thing.
No kidding.
Yeah. With a
Catch it on fire.
Do they talk about, because it looks a lot like the trash can Mac, which had a kind of central cooling vortex.
Yeah, we don't know anything about that stuff yet.
So that's one reason you might build it like that, so it's a cooling tower, right?
Yeah, right. Yep.
But I don't know. Windows 10 vNext.
vNext.
Yeah.
What is that?
Okay, this is even more confusing than Xbox Series
X.
And
MaryJo, it's very important for the future of this podcast that you explain this and not me.
Why?
Because this is messed up. I have a huge problem with this.
Okay, so Microsoft is changing how they're going to be using the fast ring of the Insider program going forward. So this week, they released a new build, 19536. So, on this show, we've been saying the next build is either going to be 20H2 or it's going to be 21H1, depending on how they test. Nope, we were wrong. We were wrong. It's neither of those things. You know what? The fast ring is now just a perpetual channel for them to test new features, which will ship or may not ship in some future version of Windows 10. So we can't really say this is manganese or this is iron, because what the people in the fast ring are testing are a bunch of features which are going to show up in random places or maybe never. That's the way things are going now. So, in the old days, we'd say first Windows 10 fast ring build of 20H2 or first Windows 10 fast ring build of 21H1. We can't say that anymore. We have to call it vNext, or I called it a new release from their development branch. Like, there's not even a nice way to talk about it, or an easy way, right?
Nice way, right? There's no way to be nice about this.
There's no way to be nice about this. Well, and we think the slow ring, and if they keep these rings, the slow ring and the release preview ring are actually going to be the ones that test the releases that are going to come out in a set time frame, like the fall release or the spring release. But they won't get that code until some point in the future. We don't know how far into the testing.
And that maps a little bit to what happened last year, right?
It does.
We didn't get what we'll think of as a slow ring version, which was 19H2 until very end of June.
Yep.
Much later than usual.
Exactly.
By the way, as you were saying that, it occurred to me, obviously there are going to be people who like this new system. They're going to look at this and think this is logical and it makes tons of sense. It's better or whatever. And I respect that. I think those people are ridiculous and wrong, but whatever. Definitely there are going to be positives. There's no doubt about it. But I also, it's funny because we, and typically me, I guess, have been very critical of promising features and not delivering and everything. And this kind of gives them the mulligan on that, right? Like
it does. Yeah.
By changing the system to address that complaint, they can say, we never promised.
We never said we were going to. Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
like
it kind of shields them from that,
Right. Here's an example. In this first build that came out, they're starting to test this new way of setting up devices where you have an option called People in My Family. So that might be in 20H2, it might be in 21H1, or it may never show up at all.
Just disappear. Don't get too attached to it.
Exactly.
Yep. So this is, you could say, this is our fault.
I'm not taking the blame for this. No, so I also have been saying on recent Windows Weeklies that they're using the semester system, right? So Windows engineering is using what Azure uses, which is a semester system. The semesters run from January to June and from July to December. And that's when they build
this has been
release.
Confirmed, right?
Yeah. So I got Jason Zander to say, yes, that is what's happening, right? Jason Zander is the guy who runs Azure and also now Windows engineering. And my guess is because it was getting really confusing, like in January, they're going to start building the thing that's in the manganese semester, which is the January.
This language
sounds like the new X-Men.
I know. This is so confusing.
Manganese semester.
Season of Bosch.
Right. We've been talking about vibranium and vanadium. Now we're going to talk about manganese and iron because we're using the periodic table, right? So these things are just the names of the semesters when they're being built. It doesn't actually correlate directly to a Windows release. This is why this got so confusing.
Big companies crack me up.
Yeah.
Like they're begging me to retire.
No, Chris Cap said it. He said, you guys have a hard job. This company's not easy to understand.
I thought that was great that he said that. Yeah, but he knows because he listens to the show, which is very flattering.
He sees us trying to figure it out. Yeah. He sees us trying.
And I actually all the time think on the shows, well, I wonder what Chris is thinking because he knows, right?
That's great. Maybe this is unique to me, but I'm always alarmed when someone tells me they listen to something that I do.
Me too. Terrifying.
And as if by recording something like this, and we've made 650 something episodes, the notion that someone might actually listen to this has just now occurred to me, and and is like a little alarming. Like, God, someone's actually paying attention.
as people come up like big shots at companies and stuff like Chris and say, oh, yeah, listen to the show. And I was like, oh, God.
Like, oh, God. But
crap.
Exactly.
Oh, no.
It's even worse when someone says, I bought this because I heard what you guys said. And then you're like, whoa.
That's the call. It happens on the radio show. They said, hi, Leo. You recommended the Surface Laptop 3, and I bought one.
Yep.
And I'm just going,
you know the conversation is going to go poorly when it starts off with the words, you said.
You said.
Exactly. Yep.
I always say, and.
There we go.
But,
just sit down. Okay.
We carry, people, I think, underestimate the heavy burden that we carry.
Thank you.
Every single day of our lives.
No, it's true. I actually feel that very strongly.
Take this seriously. I think we do. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so self-serving. I can't believe it. Okay.
No.
But it's true.
No, it's true.
Does this ever happen to you guys? No, this happens to me sometimes. We'll do the show and I'll like go to bed that night and then I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll be like, I think I said blah, 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 but that's actually not right.
All the time.
You know?
Yep.
I still, from 20 years ago, think about things I said on the air that I just still like, oh, God.
Like, how did I say that?
I wish I could say that.
I don't know if it was Build this year or Ignite last year. MaryJo and I had gotten off the stage and we talked, we kind of split off in little groups of people, talking to people, whatever. And, that guy had come up to me and he said, you said that Google would never buy YouTube. Remember? And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, yeah. And I said, where did I say that? And he said it was on Windows Weekly. Yeah. And so I looked it up. And sure enough, whatever year that Google bought YouTube, 3 months before, you and I somehow, for some reason, talked about it. And I explained why I didn't think Google would buy YouTube. And I don't remember saying it. There's a recording of me saying it.
That was like 2004, Paul. I mean,
but this guy's been holding on to this. Like
Well, this is like my dad.
Was wrong.
When
I'm like,
2011,
my wife, I was wrong as recently as this morning. You don't have to go back that far.
After Steve Jobs died, I told my dad and my brothers, sell your Apple stock. It's never going to be the same again.
Yikes.
Thank God he didn't, but he needles me about it every time I talk to him.
I told you. Yeah. My Microsoft investing advice, my father was very upset about the Microsoft antitrust trial, and he's like, I got to dump all my Microsoft stock. And I said, don't you dare. There's only two things that can happen here. They win the case and the stock goes through the roof, or they lose the case, they get broken up, and then you own stock in 2 or 3 different companies.
Yeah, that's
you're going to be all set either way.
That's good advice.
And then the next 12 years, the stock was like, beep.
Nothing.
Yeah,
it was
exactly.
like flatline. You should have said,
stupidest advice of all time.
In 20 years, a man will come.
Now, granted,
exactly.
Right? Yeah, hold on.
Who will change the fortunes.
I know. The one I remember saying definitively, I'm like, Microsoft is never buying LinkedIn. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, it makes no sense. Well, I still think it makes no sense, but they did it. So,
I
will never.
Paul had good reasons for saying it was crazy for Google to buy YouTube. It looked like the lawsuit in a bottle. I mean, it just was the worst.
It still does when you think about it. I mean, the thing is one giant IP violation.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
I had to get talked off the cliff for LinkedIn. I was visiting friends in Colorado. I just remember this because I was standing out on my friend's porch and Frank was trying to explain to me why this made sense. And it was like, people are out of freaking minds.
I want to point out,
believe it. Like,
Chris did not mention LinkedIn.
He did not.
And I almost brought it up when he was talking about, as long as you use something of ours.
Yeah.
LinkedIn's got to be more profitable than
GitHub. His response to that, though, would be that it's established, the integrations occurred. What he's trying to focus on are things that maybe aren't on our radar.
Okay. That makes sense.
That would be that's my guess.
I think they want people to not talk or think about LinkedIn. I really do.
Why not calling it out in the earnings? I mean,
why not?
It's a separate
they want
company.
They want people to say, "Oh, look, Microsoft happens to own LinkedIn, but they're just chugging along and doing great over there."
It hasn't changed a thing. Yeah.
No.
And that's actually true. I don't see any real influence.
Is it the one social media network that's not completely toxic?
It is. It is actually the last.
Give it time, guys.
I mean, give it time.
It's the last good social network. It really is. It's actually good to read.
That's
I
a
enjoy
strength.
It. Yeah.
I just thought there would be way more integration by this point between like Office and LinkedIn and Dynamics and LinkedIn, and there has been very limited integration in my view. I mean, LinkedIn doesn't even run on Azure. That's like coming, but it's like going to be a while till that happens.
Right.
See ya.
They could get MySpace next,
Yeah, exactly. They're just like letting them stay over there. Like even when they buy something, they say LinkedIn bought blah, 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 which is like, wait, no, Microsoft
I take a great exception to that. They do that with Minecraft. It's Mojang.
Like, no, guys, no.
Yeah.
Do you think it was undiplomatic of me to use the word credge?
No, I think it was excellent.
Okay.
He didn't say. Did Chris say
I thought
credge?
he might have said credge in response, which cracks me up. I'll have to go back and listen.
Yeah.
I almost called that out. I thought,
it's not a bad name.
But I love it because he saw
that,
the credge sticker.
no, it's a terrible name, but it's a great brand.
Well, people know what you're talking about when you say it.
They do. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that little C
Chatham
icon
says
that's
he did say
on your
credge.
I thought he did. Yeah.
And then Amon-Ra says, but I think he caught himself, and it was Edge after that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris. I hope we didn't get you in trouble with anybody. But he did note the Edge sticker that you, MaryJo, gave Micah Sargent, and he has it on Elvis, his laptop, Surface Laptop 3. That is a thing of beauty, by the way. I just think that's a gorgeous laptop. That blue Alcantara and. Windows 10.
All right, so finally we have some good news. So, and this is not just for insiders. This is for everybody. Most Windows 10 users are probably familiar with the Europhone app. It started sort of humbly. They had ideas. They were going to, allow you to get your text messages, your top 20 or your most recent 25 photos, and a few other things over time. And it has evolved. And your phone today, I should just look at it and see because it's kind of crazy how much it does now. Also does notifications, which I don't find particularly useful. But if you get phone notifications and you want to see them on your PC, you can do that kind of thing. It does the screen mirroring, which is very useful. That works with pens now. So if you have a pen-enabled screen and a pen, you can use your pen in an Android app, which is pretty cool. And this week they made, or they're in the process of making, it's rolling out over time, and it's rolling out for everybody. Two major changes. Phone calling in preview. That means you can take and receive calls. And there's all kinds of capabilities there with regards to sending things to voicemail, et cetera, et cetera. Handing the call off between your PC and the phone if you want to switch. Very powerful, awesome capability. And then they're finally fixing a weird limitation. And actually, I'm just looking to see if mine has changed. Nope, I'm still in the old version. But the way it has been since inception is you can only see the 25 most recent photos. They're switching that to the 2,000 most recent photos. And that I think kind of puts that feature over the top. Because oftentimes 25 would do it. You're looking for, a photo that you took very recently. But sometimes you kind of want to go back. And the ability to get at not quite your entire library, depending on the size of it, but 2,000 pictures should pretty much satisfy the need for most people. So that stuff is really cool.
Yep. I'm glad they did that because I'm still one of those people who emails myself pictures to my PC from my phone. Yep. And I'm like, if I could use your phone, I could just get my recent 2,000 pictures and have it right there. There we go.
Right. Yep.
Handy.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, what else?
What else?
Bing Visual Search. This is not.
Yeah, that's not that big a deal.
I don't know if you even bother. You probably don't even look at this stuff. But one of the first things I do in Windows 10 is turn off all the search UI that's in the taskbar.
Yeah, I don't like it.
And it's not because I don't necessarily need search. I definitely don't need Cortana. But as far as like actual search, it's because it's just unnecessary, right?
Well,
it's kind
and
of
if you hit the Windows key, don't you get it anyway? So
yeah,
you don't need that.
I keep it there. I keep it there. It's a habit.
A cute little. Okay, right. No, I think a lot of people do. I mean, but I explicitly don't. I wasn't aware of this, but if you want to just bring up like that new search pane, which is something Microsoft implemented, I think this past year, you can actually just type Windows key S. You can try this right now if you're on Windows 10, and it brings up that tabbed window where you can search for everything or apps, documents, email. So in other words, you can get to it just by typing. Like if I just type in,
I want the space.
But if you want to start there and you want to go directly to web or whatever, that's
And the last thing I want to do is mouse down to the taskbar, click that field, and type.
That's the thing. Right. Yeah. As a writer, I'm typing. I don't want to. That's one of the problems I have with the Mac. There's still too many interfaces where to get to the thing, you have to move the mouse around. It's not completely keyboard enabled.
That feature, though, you just talked about, Paul, I don't think everybody realizes that's there in Windows 10 search. So if you go to search, there are all these little sub-tabs you can see now. Like it'll say, do you want to search your email? Do you want to search your documents? Do you want to search the web? Right. And if you click there and then type the word in, it'll only search that.
That's
so
right.
If
That's
you know, like something's in my email, search email. Don't search your whole PC.
Once you know that it's available, Windows key plus S is a really memorable keyboard shortcut. So I feel like it's something people will think of.
Yeah.
I could type. I probably just like Windows key. Like I'm logging myself out. Windows key plus F. Find is feedback hub.
Feedback.
But anyway, Windows key. If you're in an Explorer, like a File Explorer window, you would do Control F to find.
I don't use any shortcut keys almost. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of heavily keyboard based.
Mac, MaryJo, then.
Yeah,
that's actually. I honestly think that's Windows' best feature is all the keys.
Do you really?
Yeah. Magic keys.
I use Control C, Control V, and that's about it.
You know what's so it's interesting. This as kind of a historical artifact. The reason that's all there in Windows is because when Windows was invented, people didn't have mice, so they had to make sure that everything was accessible with a keyboard. So I think we talked about this recently. You can do the goofy thing with like Alt spacebar brings up the little special menu that you can't even actually see anymore in modern Windows, but it's there. There's all kinds of little weird keyboard shortcuts in Windows. Like you can basically get to everything with the keyboard. If you have like a window that's off the screen, but you can see a corner of it, and you can't click on it with a mouse to drag it back in, you can actually do that with the keyboard. Using Alt space and then.
Was always the thing. I think it was always the intentional thing was that you could do everything with both a mouse and a keystroke. And Apple kind of was the opposite. Like, well, we don't want you to use the keyboard.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, given the quality of their keyboards, is it surprising?
Maybe that's the reason.
I went there.
The expression of that. Now we're going to make it so you can't use the keyboard.
You don't want to use that.
Exactly.
Oh, so it was a strategy.
Yes.
And Invoke users experiencing weird outages.
Last week, I started getting email from users who said, hey, have you heard anything about problems with the Invoke speaker? And I was like, So, no. The answer was no at the time. But actually, as I got more of these, it was getting kind of weird. And then Mehdi wrote up an article based on, I was thinking of something on, I can't remember the name of the site, I'm sorry, but it was somewhere else, had written something up. And Microsoft is phasing out functionality from Cortana that will impact Invoke users for sure. I got enough emails about it. There were enough reports about that. Clearly, there was some kind of a problem.
It happened to me over the weekend.
Oh, did it? Okay, yeah. So I guess if you reset it, that seems to help.
Yeah.
Whatever that means. But I mean, I think if you're an Invoke user, you kind of understand the situation. This is the only one that ever appeared with Cortana support. It may ultimately be the only one ever that appears with Cortana support. Microsoft is going in a different direction with Cortana, so it's likely and unfortunate that the capability is going to decline over time.
That's what
all they'll say is, like I said, so what does it mean? How much longer are you supporting Cortana on the Harman Kardon? And they said, currently, it will continue to be supported as it has been in the past. I'm like, so that didn't actually answer the question.
Tomorrow, who knows?
But that's all they'll say. So,
that doesn't bode well.
No, it doesn't really bode well. And it's too bad because that speaker is really a nice speaker.
It's a nice speaker. I mean, God, if they had ever enabled stereo pairs, I would have considered still using one. But
there's so many.
It's kind of
choices.
It's obvious. It's an island of its own, and it's not. I guess there's like some YouTube videos that explain how you can kind of mod this thing so it uses a different assistant or whatever. Really? But but this company and other companies that make this, every once in a while you'll see a speaker from a third party that actually supports multiple assistants. I don't know if it's always at the same time or if you have to pick one at setup or however they work, but this is not one of those. Yeah. So it's not a very simple process, I guess.
Oh. The invoked death watch begins.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that began last year, but yeah, it's too bad.
MaryJo and I are the only two people I know have one.
I know. Not too many people do.
You have one, Paul?
I have one.
Is yours plugged in?
No.
Mine isn't either. The only thing I liked, you could tap it on the head and it would tell you a dumb fact.
Joke. They're getting rid of that.
That's one of the things that's going away.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. Although it may come back, they said. It's in some form.
It's not reassuring.
No, it's not. It's not.
It may come back.
Maybe, maybe not. Yeah.
Let's talk about Edge. Edge. In deference to Chris C, I'm just going to call it Edge.
Yeah, I'm going to keep calling it Credge.
Okay.
Till the end.
Nice guttural name.
Yeah. So we already know Chromium-based Edge, aka Credge, is going to start rolling out to the mainstream January 15, 2020. We knew it was not tied to the new next version of Windows coming out, not tied to 20H1, right? You don't have to wait till that comes out in the spring to get Credge in the final form. But we didn't really have exactly all the details about how are they going to get it to people who are already Windows customers, right? So what they're going to do is they're going to push it through Windows Update. And they're going to start doing that January 15th to people who are on, I think, the past 4 releases of Windows 10.
I assume that's basically all of the supported versions, essentially, isn't it?
Except for, long-term servicing release, no. But I think they don't get those kind of updates anyway. So if you're on 1709 or newer, you're going to start getting it pushed to you through Windows Update. There is a blocker toolkit. So if your company for some reason is like, no, we aren't ready for that to come to us, or even if you're a home admin, you can get this blocker toolkit so that it won't get pushed to you through Windows Update.
Wow. When was the last time we saw a blocker toolkit?
I know, right?
We have seen them. It's been a while, though.
It has been a while. Yep.
Did they do this for previous IE versions or something? This sounds very familiar.
I think so. I think they did. Yep. Yeah. Okay. So they're going to just be pretty aggressive about, here's the new Edge, guys. Here it is. Boom. And my understanding is if you're in beta, if you're on the beta channel, you're just going to get it. It's just going to be replaced by the final.
So I'm not 100% sure that's true.
Really? Okay.
I believe it will be installed alongside the beta. So you'll have both.
So you mean old Edge and new Edge, right?
I think so.
Oh, God,
no.
Sorry.
No, what I meant was, here's what is happening. It will replace Edge, the old Edge, right? Technically, the code is still there. It's hidden. It won't be in the UI. If you try to run the old version, it will run the new version. Yep. But I believe, for example, I have the beta version on here. So if I'm running the beta version, I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But I believe what's going to happen is the new version will be installed, and it will be installed alongside the beta version.
Oh, really? Oh.
That is the way it happens today. You can install multiple channels, right? So you could have beta and Canary or whatever, or dev or dev, all of them. And presumably when production, whatever they call it, the stable version is available, you could also install them alongside. I think that's how it's going to work.
Will there be any way to get the old Edge?
Not without the blocker tool that MaryJo was talking about. And honestly,
it's goodbye.
You don't want it.
You don't want it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't. But I mean, I could imagine that's going to upset a couple people, right? There are people who do like the old browser, and they're probably not going to be very happy about this. It's surprisingly aggressive.
It is pretty aggressive, yeah.
And it's got that kind of Pravda-style history rewriting to it. Oh, no, what old Edge? What do you mean? This is Edge.
I'm Edge. I'm Edge.
No, it's Edge.
No, I'm Edge.
It looks different and it doesn't have the same features, but no, it's the same thing.
I am positive we'll see blog posts before January 15, 2020 explaining all of these things in great detail. Right now it's just in Microsoft Docs, but I'm sure they're going to post about it and explain if you're on the old Edge, here's what happens. If you're on the dev channel, here's what happens, right? Yeah.
What I said about if you have the beta is my understanding. I'm not 100% sure that that's what's going to happen, but I do believe that's what's going to happen. Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense because, as you point out, people
just based on how it works today, and how I read it. I'll have to go back and look, but I believe that's how it works.
How do you think the little people work? Do they They just use the browser. It's like your mom thinks
normal
it's
people?
the internet. Yeah.
Yeah. They call it like my mom calls it the E.
Yeah.
She doesn't even know what it is.
Like the C.
Yeah, it looks like a C now, the new cute logo for Edge.
I mean, technically I guess you
it's
could
a
see
stylized E, I guess. Right? But yeah, if I say to my mom, go to the browser, she has no idea what I'm talking about. Like none.
Right. That's my sense of it. Or at least it used to be that way. I don't know if people are more sophisticated than they used to be.
I don't think people think of it like that. They just think I'm going to the internet.
It's the internet button.
It will replace the icon in your taskbar will change, right?
It will.
So you would probably notice that. It's very colorful. Yeah. You'll click on it, and of course it will say, welcome to the new Edge. Here's what changed. This is why everything's better. Yeah. Honestly, for most people, if you can get over that little hump of, oh my God, something changed, it should be a good experience, right? It's a good browser.
The next day, it's like, that's the internet.
Yeah, that's how it is.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you think I know everybody who listens to our shows has multiple browsers and is very aware, but normies don't. That's not. They don't care.
Right.
No.
But people are comfortable with the notion that computers, like mobile phones, get updated from time to time.
Yeah.
And
it's a new version. Yeah.
Yeah.
They no one normal would have an understanding that Edge was being updated as Windows was updated and whatever. So it got updated on some random schedule as far as they're concerned. I mean, that's probably not necessarily a concern.
I mean, we saw this before with IE, the move to Edge in the first place. People gave, for a long time, initially people said, where's IE? But that didn't last that long. They moved over.
Right.
Yeah.
Normal people, says Eric Duckman in the chat room, want one browser shipped with the computer. I think that's true.
Yeah.
I think that's all.
If it works, they'll keep it. Right. If it doesn't work, they'll look for something else.
Well, but unfortunately, that was the problem with the original Edge, right?
It was.
Current usage share is like 3.4%. And
well, that's interesting. That means people did go out and seek a different browser.
People knew it wasn't working the way they wanted it to work.
It was inadequate. And of course, you also get those announcements on sites. Works better with Firefox or get Chrome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
on my company intranet, on the Premier Radio intranet, I have to take periodic tutorials so I don't violate FCC rules. And it says you have to have Chrome.
Yeah. Oh, ZNet, our CMS, we have to use Chrome. They're like, don't use the Edge thing, whatever that is.
Yeah, but I know. Okay,
I
know. There is a big difference now. If you use the new Edge, you go to Google.com. It doesn't give you that little "you should use Chrome" warning, right? That alone might keep people on this browser, right?
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway.
See if Google screws that one up for us all. But right now, that's working well.
So
they're partners.
They're just going to import all the Chrome extensions, and then if you have ones that are Edge specific, you submit them. Or
I don't quite understand. So Microsoft is going to maintain their own extension store. The way they've done it to date is it's been in the Microsoft store. This is part of Windows 10, but in the new Edge, it works in Windows 7 and Windows 8. So I'm not exactly I actually don't even know how. Maybe it's a website. I'm not really sure how they're doing it exactly, or if they do it differently on 7, 8, and 10 or whatever. But you can flip a switch in Edge and use the Chrome Web Store, which is what I do. And so I found it personally, it's just easier to just use the Chrome Web Store because it works with all Chrome extensions.
Right. There is going to be
just like
a separate Microsoft Edge add-ons store is what they're going to have. Yeah.
So that's apparently open now. So I don't quite understand. No, I'm sorry. I do understand. The reason a developer would want to do this is because that switch that I was talking about is not enabled by default. I actually prefer the way Brave does it. So if you use the Brave web browser and you go into extensions and you go to the store, it goes to the Chrome Web Store. And they actually, because of the communication between the browser and the store, the Chrome Web Store has actually changed a little bit so that it acknowledges in some cases, but not all, that you're using Brave and not Chrome, which is kind of interesting. It seems to me like getting out of the rendering game here, they would also want to get out of the, extension store. Like, who cares?
Yeah,
like,
I
it's
know.
gonna, why even worry about this kind of thing?
That Brave behavior, I think that's Brave doing that. I don't think that's the Chrome Web Store doing that. You know what I'm saying? I think Brave is.
Yeah, so you think they're changing the?
That's what I think.
They're actually doing it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I mean, that's cool
just
too,
to reassure you that this is going to work, even though you're not using Chrome. They don't want it to say things like install this extension on Chrome. They want to say install it on Brave. So I'm guessing. I don't know, but
I think they're intercepting it or something.
I think they're intercepting it and changing it. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
I mean, I
wouldn't. Google wouldn't do that.
That's where I want to go. I think part of the. I get why Microsoft's doing what they're doing. They're trying to make it easy for normal human beings, and that's fine. But I don't know. I've been using the Chrome Web Store for a long time. I have whatever set of extensions I always use. It's a little bit of a pain on Edge right now because they don't sync extensions. Anyone who uses Google Chrome knows one of the big advantages is you sign into your Google account, get hands off the browser for a couple of minutes, a bunch of tabs will open, it will install all your extensions. It's nice. And when you install Edge, you have to redo all that every time. It's a little bit of a pain. So
I don't like that because I use different extensions at home and at work.
Oh,
I don't have a standard set of extensions. I want my bookmarks to sync, but I don't want my extensions to sync.
You almost need like work and home profiles or something.
Yeah, which you could do. Some browsers, I think maybe it's Firefox. I can't remember. One browser has check marks for what you want to sync.
Yeah, no, you can. Right, and actually,
can I say note sync?
Yes, that has to be in Chrome, and it is in Edge, except extensions isn't available yet because they don't they don't do it yet.
Right. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I want LastPass everywhere, but some things I don't use at work, because I'm using it on the air, so I don't want my Pornhub extension on there. But
right.
No, I'm kidding, obviously. But is there a Pornhub extension?
I don't. So let me tell you about how they work. So this.
No, but like Honey, for instance, I wouldn't put my Honey extension on at work. I don't want coupon codes popping up in the middle of a show. Things like that.
Yep.
I am an unusual situation. Maybe not, though. I bet there are a lot of people don't want to sync their Chrome tabs, their Chrome extensions to work.
Well, you can, right. I mean, I do that sometimes on a Windows 10 PC. I'll turn off the the theme sync. Like sometimes, I want that in some computers and not others, et cetera. So if you don't want that to sync, you got to move quick because it comes.
Yeah. All right, I don't know. I feel like we did Xbox, but let's do some more. I'm sorry, MaryJo.
None of this is super important. We can skip over this.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just do it. I mean, 60 seconds. So, Halo: The Master Chief Collection is finally available on the PC. Well, one of the games is. So, Halo Reach is available. It got off to a crazy fast start on the PC. There were over 3 million gamers playing this game across console and PC, and that's including Steam over the first opening weekend or whatever. So that's great. Microsoft announced yesterday, I think it was, the remaining Game Pass for console titles for December. Remember, they usually do the first half of the month and then the second half. Concurrent to that was the release of the only one of those that is important, which is, of course, Untitled Goose Game, which is now available. Actually, that's available on PC, too, if I'm not mistaken, but that was available as of yesterday. So that's neat. And then this is only semi-related to Xbox, but I was interested to see how they worded this. Activision is talking about how awesome the latest Call of Duty is. And apparently it has generated now $1 billion worth in sales. And when I saw that, I thought, wait a minute, this game's been out since October. There was a Call of Duty game that made that much in like an opening weekend. Like, this is not very good. But what it says, if you read this closely, is it says it's the most played Call of Duty of this generation. And of this generation means since 2012. So as it turns out, there were Call of Duty games in the past that were way more successful than this. But Call of Duty has a lot more competition today. And so it's obviously still a humongous game, and it was number one, et cetera, et cetera. And $1 billion, by the way, is still $1 billion. But I play this game every day, and I got to tell you, I am not completely enthralled with it. Like, it's a really good-looking game, but it is a confusing mess. And there are some huge playability problems. And it's the type of stuff where you're running down a path and you hit a rock and you can't go by, like you just like bump into it, And I always joke with my son about this kind of thing. It's like super soldier can't get through a door, It's like I can fly into space and shoot it's like snipe someone from a million miles away, but like a door flummoxes me somehow. There's a lot of stuff like that in this game that's a little frustrating. So,
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, that's it. All right, take a break.
That's right.
We're going to smoke them if you got them. We're going to come back. We're going to get the picks of the week, the tips of the week, the beer of the week, all that week stuff. What we call the back of the book coming up. But first, a word from Wasabi. Hot stuff. Well, hot cloud storage anyway. The whole world is moving to the cloud. And, of course, when you think about that and when the boss is asking you to research it, you're probably thinking, let's see, Amazon, Google, Azure. I want you to add a fourth name. I want you to, and I know this is a big ask, but this is a company that started by two friends of mine. I've known them well. They have a patent. They started Carbonite, and they have a patent. Jeff Flowers is the CTO. David Friend, who is the CEO. I have a patent for writing to disks sequentially, not in sectors. It's kind of brilliant. Only they can do it, and it gives you cloud storage, enterprise-grade cloud storage, 80% cheaper and 6 times faster than S3. And more secure probably than your on-prem storage. 11 nines of durability because they do regular integrity checks. Every file is checked every 90 days so that you know your data is safe. It's in multiple redundant data centers. And they even have something I love called immutable storage, which means it cannot be changed. Most particularly by ransomware. Ransomware can't touch it. So you get your data up in the cloud, you protect it, it's safe, more secure than on-prem. Efficient, affordable cloud data storage. You got to have this, and I want you to add Wasabi to your list. That's all I ask. HIPAA compliant, FINRA compliant, CJIS compliant. And I told you, you save a lot of money. I mean, we're talking 80% cheaper, 1/5 the cost. And unlike Amazon's S3, by the way, it uses the S3 API. So your software, if you use software with S3, you already know how it works. It's the same. It will work with Wasabi. But they don't, unlike S3, they don't charge for egress and they don't charge for API access. So, this is another way you save. Take a look, wasabi.com, wasabi.com. Click the free trial link. If you enter the offer code Windows, you'll get unlimited storage for a month, so you can really bang on it before you show the boss, before you say, boss, look, I got something new. There's this new kid in town. These guys are innovators. They're going to save us a lot of money. Wasabi, wasabi.com. Use the offer code Windows. Please do that, though, so they know you saw it here. Paul Thurrott. Let's do a tip or something.
By the way, I just got an email from Microsoft talking about the most anticipated Xbox games of 2020. And there is a Cuphead DLC coming next year.
We've been talking about that for 6 months.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's a little late. I guess the two-person team that's making that is a little overworked. It's going to be late. Doom Eternal, Gears Tactics, Halo Infinite, Kingdom Hearts 3, Microsoft Flight Simulator, right, which uses Bing Maps. That's supposed to be pretty cool. Minecraft Dungeons, Minecraft Earth.
Minecraft Dungeons? What is that?
Yeah. Minecraft Dungeons it says all new action adventure games set in the Minecraft universe will be launching in April, created in the classic dungeon crawler style.
Oh, I want to play that.
Epic quest of new characters and environments, single player and co-op multiplayer.
Nice.
Including couch co-op.
Yeah, that means side by side. You know that.
Oh, I see.
The old, remember you'd play GoldenEye, you'd be sitting next to somebody.
Yeah, well, I've done split screen and
couch co-op.
Screen. Okay.
Couch. In other words, not against a player on the internet, but somebody. We actually have to explain that now. You're going to be playing with somebody in your room.
No, you can play with someone, but they're next to you.
They're next to you.
Like really next to you.
What do you mean? He could touch me? What do you mean?
Yeah.
What do you mean? I don't get it.
I got to tell you, one of the funnest things back in the day was playing Doom on big screens in classrooms at a school I worked at, and you could like yell at people you were playing against.
It's so much fun. LAN parties.
Yeah.
I hope this generation gets it, because LAN parties were so much fun. I fragged you, and instead of doing it on your headset, you're sitting right there, and he's going, "Oh, it's so much fun."
Right? Yeah.
And if he's sitting on the couch, you could pinch him. All right.
Just to throw keyboard.
Get off the couch, guys.
Get off the couch. No, that's the whole point of gaming. It's couch time. Special time on my couch. Me and my couch. So we already talked about the Chris Cap giveaway. That's your tip of the week. I apologize.
The tip is stay tuned for that. So today I will put up a post explaining how that will all unfold.
Nice.
Stay tuned for that. So there's hardware and software, as you know. And then just real one app pick. Adobe Lightroom is the first Adobe CC app to appear in the Microsoft Store. So if you remember, there have been some number of versions, 3 or 4 versions of Adobe Photoshop Elements, but not the full Photoshop that have been in the store. This is the first CC app. So the general advice is, honestly, like, for as unused as the Microsoft Store can be, one of the really nice things about it is, if it's a straight up just a piece of software you would normally buy, you get really incredible usage rights, right? So if you were to go to adobe.com and bought Photoshop Elements, you could use it on like 2 computers. But if you do it through the Microsoft Store, you can use it on 10 computers at once. Like, it's really nice. You have to be signed in with your Microsoft account and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, it's for someone like me that uses different computers all the time, like, that's huge. The problem with Lightroom is it's still on a subscription, right? So you're not really getting.
So if you're not a CC subscriber, it's just.
Well, you could
do some stuff.
But here's what's interesting. Through the store, you can actually just subscribe to Lightroom.
Oh.
So that's kind of interesting. So it's still a subscription.
That's a big
deal.
But
because you're going through the Microsoft Store, if you don't need the other stuff. Yeah, it's something to think about.
How much?
How much? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how much. I should know how much.
Because it's so for $10, I can get a CC subscription to Lightroom and Photoshop.
Yeah, let's see.
So
Let me look at it.
That's a month, by the way.
There's also a preview. Yeah, free trial. What does it say? Yeah, see, this is why I don't know, because when you click on it,
they don't want to tell you.
Yeah. So let me go. It should say. Anybody listening who knows? I don't know. It says free trial. It says free trial. Tick. Let's look at the asterisks. Blah blah blah. Where is it? Nothing. It's some amount of money.
Yeah.
There's dollars involved.
There's dollars. You have to pay for something.
First week is free. Doesn't say. It literally doesn't.
So the reason is there's a number of different Creative Cloud subscriptions.
Okay. Oh, so maybe you're getting, okay.
So you get to choose. You want everything? But the thing that they don't do right now, I don't think they have a Lightroom only subscription.
Right.
So that would be interesting. Although, honestly, $10 a month. And you get
$10 a month. I mean,
that's not terrible.
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, so if you were to buy like just Photoshop Elements, which is kind of like the semi-light version, obviously, although it's really full-featured, not on sale is $120. Right. You can often get it on sale for, I think, 70 or 80. And then, of course, you can use it for years, which I did. I think I used 15.
That's the difference.
For 3 years until I got the latest version and whatever. But
annuity for Adobe.
But this is an interesting development, right? I mean, a full featured CC app appearing in the Microsoft Store. It's a first.
It's very interesting.
So we'll see where that goes. But
MaryJo Foley, your pick of the week.
Yes. So we've talked a lot about Windows 10 20H1, also known as Windows 10 2004, just to keep things confusing. But you know what? We haven't talked about the server version of 20H1 / 20.
I think you've got a comma in there, MaryJo.
I know. There's meant to be several commas in there, probably. And the reason we haven't talked a lot about it is every time Microsoft did a test build of this, they didn't list any features almost ever. So when people say to me, what's in the server version of 20H1? I'm like, I don't know. But now we do know a couple things. There was a blog post on Tuesday, I believe Tuesday last week, that RCP Mag found. I totally did not see this blog post, but it listed a couple of the major features in 20H1 server release. So there are several, but there's two things I would say are worth noting. One is this release is going to speed up PowerShell by 30%. And
what?
And the container image size in the 20H1 release of Server is going to be 40% smaller than the container-based image size in Windows Server 1903. So there are some fairly significant things in the Server release coming out in the first half of next year. Not that Microsoft shared them until now, but I think it's just worth knowing. And if you go to rcpmag.com, they point to a blog post, and they also talk about some of the .NET changes and other features in there. So if you care about Server, it's probably worth a read.
Yes.
Yep.
And a code name?
Yeah, I realized I didn't drop this code name when I found out about it. I wrote a while ago about Microsoft doing a version of Microsoft 365 for consumers that I believe, at least right now, is called Microsoft 365 Life. We talked about that on the show, but I never said the code name for it, which is Alta, A-L-T-A. I looked up Alta, and one prominent result that comes up when you search for Alta is there's an Alta, Utah ski resort, which I wonder if maybe the team was hanging out at the ski resort when they came up with the idea for this product, kind of like Whistler and Longhorn and all that. But maybe there's another reason it's codenamed Alta. But if you do hear Alta, that's what it is, the Microsoft 365 consumer subscription.
Alta.
But
A-L-T-A. But
Chris was very clear about Office 365, MaryJo.
He was.
How dare you? How dare you?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So he wanted to make sure it was not Microsoft 365. Is that what I was interpreting?
Yeah. He knew I was probably, if I had one more minute, I would have said, so what about that Microsoft 365 Life thing?
Yeah, got it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why he's like, gotta go, guys. Got a meeting.
Bye, okay. See ya.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm in the mood. This is our last beer pick of the year.
It is.
Yep.
So I think you need to pick something extra special.
I thought I should do a Christmas beer pick because there are tons of Christmas beers and things that are called winter warmers, which is like, something you sit by the fire with and contemplate your year. As one does with a craft beer. So I picked for my Christmas pick, Prairie Artisan Ale's Christmas Bomb.
That'll warm you. That'll warm you up.
It will. It's so good. Prairie makes a beer called Prairie Bomb, which is an imperial stout. They take that imperial stout, they age it on espresso beans, vanilla beans, and chocolate, and throw in a little ancho chili pepper and some Christmas spices. And
holy cow!
It sounds crazy. It tastes so delicious. The pepper is just subtle. No, very subtle on the pepper. Very nice with the vanilla chocolate and coffee thing going on. But a warning, 13%. You'll be taking your winter's nap if you drink more than one of these.
Nice.
A long winter's.
They're very good, though. Prairie is based in Oklahoma. They make excellent beer. If you ever see anything from Prairie, give it a shot.
Good to know.
Nice.
Good to know. Wow, what a show. What a year.
I know.
Take next week off. I think it's there's a holiday.
Yeah, there might be a holiday.
And then, you know what? Take next week and the week after off because there's another holiday. But we'll be back January 8th. Right. Actually, I won't be back because I'll be
where are you going again?
CES.
Oh, jeez. Right. Oh, boy.
Oh, boy. We'll be smack dab in the middle of CES. We're going to, Ant and I are going. We're going to file, I'm talking 10, 20 pieces a day.
Ooh, really?
Just crazy. We're just going to bang it out. It's going to be gun and run. It's called, what is it? Leo and Ant's Excellent CES Adventure. I haven't been there since 2012.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah.
And incidentally, I've already booked a vacation for January 2021.
You should.
So I'll be resting up for 2 years before I go back. Yeah.
Oof.
I know. You guys haven't gone in ages, probably, right?
I haven't been in
2016, probably.
Yeah.
I haven't been in maybe 10 years.
Yeah. It's going to be fun.
We're going to be, but we'll be in Vegas this year.
We will.
For Ignite, for
No, for I think VMon maybe. We have an event.
I don't have to go to that. Thank goodness.
We'll see how that goes.
No, man. No.
No.
Come on, there's good sushi. You'd like it.
Everything about Vegas down.
Good restaurants and shows.
I like Vegas. We were thinking about moving there, but
wow.
I still want to. Lisa said no.
Let me tell you what it's like in the summer when it's 120 degrees outside.
That's why she said no. 130 degrees.
Because people tell you it's a dry heat, and my response to that is, so is a hairdryer, and I don't want to live there either.
Welcome to the oven.
I know.
Yeah. No, so, we're not moving there. So don't worry.
Petaluma is much nicer.
I think we're we're happy here. It's just that there's a rather large state income tax, much like New York. And now that it's not deductible anymore, it's kind of eaten into my income. So, ladies, you don't need to know that. I just want to thank you for a wonderful year. Thank Chris Capossela for being the capper. And Mike will be here on the 8th. I'll be back on January 15th. I hope you have a wonderful holiday and a happy new year.
Thanks. You too.
All right, guys. We do Windows Weekly, and we will, as I said, we'll have a best of next week and the week after. We'll be back January 8th. Mike will be hosting. It'll be on time as a result. That's Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 1800 UTC. You can watch twit.tv/live for any of our shows. There's live audio and video of every show as we go. And then on-demand versions, audio or video, from our website, twit.tv/WW in this case. Best thing to do is subscribe in your favorite podcast application, Stitcher, Slacker, Apple, Google, whatever you use, subscribe. That way they'll know you listen, and we will appreciate it. Plus, you'll always have the latest episode. Thanks, everybody. Have a great holiday. We'll see you next time with the best of Windows Weekly, and a happy new year. Bye-bye.